in this horrible, tragic event.
Those are strong words. My next guest was the first to ask Holder to step down. Republican Congressman Joe Walsh is here now. And, sir, good morning to you.
Hey, Bill, good to be with you.
Good. What did you think of what Alan West said there? Those are strong words directed at the president.
Strong words reflecting a real strong sentiment at what a tragic operation Fast and Furious was, and the deadly consequences, and the fact that someone has to be held accountable for this. I sent the Attorney General a letter 10 days ago asking him to resign, and I told him if I didn't hear back that we would send a letter to the President asking the President to ask Attorney General to step down. We're beginning to circulate that letter in the House right now. We've got upwards of 40 House members who have called for Holder's resignation. I think that sentiment will be reflected in this letter that we'll send to the President before the week is out.
What will be in that letter to the President?
Basically calling on the President to ask the Attorney General to step down, to do as the President has called, to get some answers to this issue, but also the President himself, Bill, called this a huge error judgment. I mean, which had tragic consequences. There's consensus now that whoever thought of this program was mistaken. This program's a mistake. Well, it was incredibly botched in how it was handled.
In your letter to the Attorney General, you talked about the role he played in the subsequent cover-up. Now, what do you allege his role was?
There are clearly questions that need to be answered. The Attorney General has given conflicting questions as to when he knew about Fast and Furious, when he first knew about it. He's given conflicting answers, which are troubling and which need to be investigated. But, Bill,
he says there are many operations happening in this huge organization operated out of Washington, D.C., and operations that happen at any given time. Do you give him the benefit of the doubt?
Look, it goes to leadership. Again, the Attorney General is the chief law enforcement officer of this country. Fast and Furious broke laws and led to deadly consequences. He needs to be, the department needs to be held accountable for that, and he needs to exhibit leadership as the head of that organization and be held accountable. Look, I want to know what he knew and when he knew it. But what we know is this was a tragic mistake, handled miserably. Someone needs to be held accountable for that even before we get to what the Attorney General knew and when.
Is your ultimate issue with Holder that the operation happened in the first place, or that the timeline upon which he says he was aware of the operation has changed somewhat? Now, what he said in testimony is that he was informed about it a few weeks ago. And now he came back and said, I probably should have said a few months ago. Is that enough in your view for a resignation?
That's problematic. His conflicting answers as to when he knew about problematic and need to be investigated. From my perspective, the program itself was a huge mistake that should never have happened, led to the death of one of our border agents. It was handled absolutely improperly, and by those two things alone, Bill, the department needs to be held accountable. He needs to exhibit leadership as the head of that department and step down.
Okay, we're going to watch for this letter. You say it'll be done by the end of this week, and we'll see what is contained in there, and also we'll see how many people agree and sign on with you. Another topic, should lawmakers be exempt from insider trading laws?
Absolutely not. Look, I'm just a freshman. I'm one of the poorest members of Congress to boot. But this is what angers a lot of American people. We should not be a special class of citizen. We should be held to the same laws that the general population is held to. And if members of Congress violated insider trading laws, there should be no special treatment.
Scott Brown introduced this. It's his idea. You agree with Scott Brown then, don't you?
There should be no special treatment for members of Congress. Absolutely.
Joe Walsh, Republican from Illinois. Thank you, sir.